From NewsWatch 28, this is Michiana Matters, a weekly Michiana news magazine. Now, here is your NewsWatch 28 host.
Hello, everyone. I'm Diane Daniels. Welcome to Michiana Matters. Well, today we have a very special show for you. You may say that our show has gone to the dogs today, but we mean that in a very good way. We have some very special guests with us and their animals from a local greyhound adoptive program, and basically the way it works is that these people will take greyhound dogs that used to run at tracks in Iowa, bring them here to our local area, and then find adoptive owners for them. So first off, we'd like to introduce our guests. And first off, kind of going around the couch here, we have Ellen Schroeder, and she's one of the volunteers with the Greyhound Companions of Indiana program. Next to her, we have Trudy Batchis, and Trudy, as I understand, is kind of the chief coordinator of this big project. And next to Trudy, Angela Bonnick is with us, another volunteer. And last but certainly not least, Stacy Bowman. And they all have their dogs here with us, so of course we want to get right to our very special animal guests. So I guess, Ellen, maybe if you just want to start out by telling us about your dog who you have here with us, and a little bit about he or she.
Well, this is Andrea, and we call her Andy. We've had her since Thanksgiving Eve. Wonderful. And she has made herself at home with our lab and our 3 cats, and she'll be 4 in April.
Okay.
And she just absolutely amazes us and cracks us up, you know, with all the things that she does. We just think she's wonderful.
Very
good. If I could, I'd have 12
more. You may have to get a bigger place.
Really? I should buy a farm.
Keep that in mind, food for thought. Now, Trudy, you have Ivy here with us, and Ivy was smart. She got her place on the floor right off the bat here and is real comfortable. Tell us about Ivy, Trudy.
Ivy is the one who started the program, basically. Ivy was our first greyhound. I received Ivy from Iowa, and in fact, her name is Iowa Ivy, in July of this year. Since Ivy has joined our family, which consists of a Yorkshire Terrier, a Whippet, which is similar to a Greyhound, and a Mini Lop Rabbit, we also have adopted another Greyhound by the name of Mink. So we have quite a family of animals at our home, and she fits in beautifully with everybody, including my 2 children who are 5 and 6.
So she gets along well with the other animals and the small kids.
Perfect.
Okay,
perfect.
Wonderful. All right, Angela, who have you got with us here? And I know that your dog's not facing the camera, but it's this all-black one right here who's so comfortable.
This is Jason, and we adopted Jason in November of last year, shortly before Thanksgiving, and he's a wonderful pet, gets along with the children real well, and we've also adopted another Greyhound, and he gets along with her real well, too. They've both been wonderful. They're great animals.
Okay, very good. Stacy, how about your dog?
Okay, her name is Flower, and she just turned 3, and she's what we call a brindle color, and she's a real big baby, aren't you? And she lives along with another Greyhound, Gizmo. He's a male, and he's also a brindle, but he's lighter. And I have a golden retriever, a cat, and also a parrot, plus 2 children. So we have quite a house full, too.
Wow, I guess so. So really, these dogs are all fairly young then, aren't they? Okay, very good. Well, now, as we talked about earlier, we have some videotape. Fortunately, we were able earlier last year to be around when some of these dogs from Iowa were united with their new owners for the first time. So we're going to share that special moment with you right now.
These retired racers got an early Christmas present last December 13th. After finishing their days at dog tracks in Iowa, the dogs arrived in Elkhart County, where loving adoptive families were waiting. Although the Greyhound adoption program just got started last fall, by the time these canines were connected with owners, demand had gone through the roof. Waiting lists 20 to 30 names long had developed, people wanting former purse-winning dogs. And prior to the happy union of animals and owners, the Greyhound Companion Group held an educational event November 29th at the Pierre Moran Mall in Elkhart. The idea was to show people just how lovable these hounds can be as pets. And it's not just a matter of whether or not these dogs find happy homes. This adoption program saves them from being destroyed once they've stopped winning races at the track.
Now, you may notice our population of dogs got limited here a little bit. We decided to give all the dogs but Ivy here a break from the hot lights and the cameras, but we'll be bringing them back a little later before the end of the show, so you'll get to see the beautiful dogs in all their glory once again. But Ivy's going to stay here with us if she can sit it out. So I guess first off, we'd like to get to some more questions about your program. Obviously, how did this get started? It sounds so unique. Maybe Ellen or Trudy, you want to take that?
Well, we can both take it, I guess. That's kind of how we started anyway. Trudy had Ivy, and I guess, didn't you get her in July?
Yeah, I received Ivy in July.
Then I saw her out at the Humane Shelter's Pet Olympics, and I happened to see her husband, Bob, and I said, is that a greyhound? Because I didn't know that they came in other colors besides the gray-blue, as they call it. And Trudy called me, and we got started, and made lots of contacts with phone and malls, newspapers, obviously, television, and we were off and rolling, haven't we? We've been rolling ever since, sometimes quite rapidly.
Yes, it's been, the turnout has been excellent with the dogs. We're working with a wonderful person in Iowa who actually rescues the dogs from the track. Her name is Rinda Kearns. She takes the dogs that are no longer able to race and places them or puts them in foster homes or kennels them or puts them in her own home and takes care of them until we can transport them back to Indiana to the adoptive homes. Or she's also working her program out in Iowa. She might have people that want to adopt her dogs there. 40 is usually her max that she takes at a time. That spot can always be filled immediately. If I would take 30 dogs from her and place them in 30 different homes here in Elkhart, within a matter of a day, she can be filled back up to her maximum of 40. That's how many dogs are coming off the track all the time. And it's year-round. It's just not at different times in the season. This is something that's continually happening, that these dogs are no longer used. If they are not put into a home or someplace, quote, safe, then they are put down or euthanized.
Wow. So probably there's just no way of even knowing how many dogs throughout this entire country are being lost who could make wonderful pets every year.
We have it figured for every dog that we bring in, for every one dog, 40 are put to sleep.
Golly, those are pretty staggering
It is.
numbers.
40,000 a year is the Humane Society's total on the number of racing greyhounds that are euthanized.
Angela, you're one of the volunteers. Tell me a little bit about the role that volunteers play in this and what you've done as a volunteer since you've gotten involved with the program, besides being a happy new pet owner.
Well, we fostered quite a few dogs. We, in November, started fostering, and I think we probably had a dog for an average of a week, and then Trudy would place the dog in a home. So we probably had maybe 5 or 6 foster dogs, and right now we have a dog that we're fostering.
So you're kind of a halfway
Yeah.
house of sorts then. Now, do you do that as well, Stacy?
Yes, I do. I've fostered a dog pretty much steadily since I've gotten my first dog. So it's kind of nice though. You get to have a lot of different dogs, and you get to see a lot of different personalities, and you get attached to them. It's hard to say goodbye. Yes.
I bet. Now, speaking of the personalities, you might think, an outsider to the program like me, that these dogs might be aggressive, and the life that they led, you know, on the track is one to be a hard racing competitor, and you might wonder how well that might translate into being a pet.
They're not aggressive at all. They're babies. They're very gentle. They get along well with a lot of other animals, including other types of dogs, you know, other breeds. Most of them get along with the smaller animals like your cats, but we pretty much know when they come in if they will do well in a home with a cat or other small animals. So They're just great dogs. They're probably one of the best breeds I've ever dealt with.
Really? Now, Angela, when you've been fostering the dogs, have you noticed any signs of abuse? Do you ever get a dog where you think, boy, I can tell that this dog has had some bad things happen?
A few of the dogs that we've had, but it's usually after a few days that you notice. It's not an aggressive behavior that makes you think that the dog has been abused. We have a dog right now that we're fostering that he has some scarring on him, and I don't know if they're cuts or burns. So it makes you wonder, because you don't know. I mean, if these dogs could talk, you'd really get, you know, an idea of what has happened with them, but never an aggressive behavior because of what appears to have been abuse.
Trudy, since you've had such a long association with your connection in Iowa, do you have some insight for us maybe on the kind of life that these dogs have led while they were racers?
Well, since they were born, up until their racing day, which starts when they're approximately 18 months of age, they are kept in a crate or a kennel, just your square, basic wire crate. They are only allowed out of that crate to eat, to go to the bathroom, and to race or to train. Otherwise, they are kept in that crate. Their racing career can go anywhere from 18 months up to 4.5 years of age. When that's no longer done, when they're done racing, then that's when we try to adopt them out. But they haven't had a home life. So coming into a home is very different to the animals. They do not know stairs. They don't know how to go upstairs. You have to work with them on that. They do not know patio doors. You have to work with them very carefully on that to make sure that they don't see something outside and try to go right through it. They also have an interest in people that have glass mirrors behind their doors. If they would shut the doors and the dog is there, they automatically think there's another greyhound in the room with them and they just go crazy. But other than that, they fit in very well. They want to be loved. They crave an awful lot of attention because they have never been given that at all. They have just been, well, they're used for a purpose. So when that purpose is done, they're just looking for a lot of love.
Well, a lot of time to make up for, too. What's the life of one of these greyhound dogs? Because I think for all the ones that you mentioned probably are destroyed, we're talking about a long potential life that could be saved.
They'd have a normal dog's lifespan. You know,
Oh, what, maybe
depending on
12
sure,
years,
12,
something like
14 maybe. Sure. They've got lots of life left in them after race
After the
time.
track. Now, tell us a little bit about kind of logistically how this works. If I come to you and I say, boy, I want one of these greyhounds, is there a screening process or fees? What kinds of requirements do the new owners have to meet?
They are screened. Trudy gets the applications, even if some of the rest of us hand them out. They get mailed back to Trudy, and she goes through them and tries to match the dog with the house. And the homes are screened, and we just try to see to it that people really want a dog and are not just caught up in the situation of the dogs and feeling bad about it, but they have to also really want a dog.
And because the work that it sounds like needs to go along with this.
You know, that's true, except that I would have to say that this dog has been less work than any pet I ever had in my life, including my lab.
Wow.
And I felt he was bright and smart and easily trainable. But these dogs are an absolute piece of cake. They're so sensitive, and they want to do, and they want to please, and real bright. And they catch on very, very quickly.
Wonderful. I'm just getting a kick out of it.
Isn't that a stitch?
We should all be so happy that that's nice. Now, Trudy, what about costs? When we got started, you said, let's flash up the words, more money on the screen. It sounds like this almost could be a full-time job for you, and I know you're just doing this as a volunteer kind of effort. How do you fund the cost of transporting the dogs? I suppose there may be shots and other costs involved as well.
Well, this started out as a little thing I was going to do on the side, and it has turned into almost a full-time job for me. There is an adoption fee for the dogs. It's $120. With that $120, that includes all their spaying, all their neutering. They are up to date on all their shots. They've had a heartworm test. They've had a stool sample done. All of that, and all their teeth have been cleaned. When they're racing, their diet is very poor. They're on more or less a raw meat diet, so they haven't had that ability to chew something hard to get those teeth clean. So we always make sure that their teeth are cleaned up for the new owners. If you would take any dog, these dogs are all purebred also, they're all NGA registered, which is National Greyhound Association registration. That is the organization that is used for retired racing greyhounds. If you would take any pet to a veterinarian and have everything done that I told you, it's very costly. That price of the dog includes all of that, but it's not enough to really make the program keep going. A lot of our own personal monies are into this. You still have printing of brochures to do. We have transportation, gas, the insurance on bringing the vehicles in when the dogs come straight in from Iowa, numerous things, telephone calls. None of that is covered within that $120. So we're trying to think up fundraisers to do and different ideas, and we always would readily accept a donation because it gets to be a real expense. And I don't think people realize how much it is an expense to get these dogs in here, but they're worth it. I mean, they're worth it. If any one of us weren't completely sold on these dogs, we wouldn't be up here today doing this.
Sure. Now might be a good time to put that phone number up.
Would you please?
Absolutely. The number that we have for the Greyhound Companions is 264-9708. And Trudy, maybe you can tell us, is that your number?
That's my phone number, yes.
Okay. You probably need an answering machine with a long
I have one of those,
tape in it, huh? Okay, real good. Now, we talked a little bit before about the waiting list that very quickly developed once you started this. I don't know if maybe, Angela, you can fill us in on the status right now. I know that back in December, the last time that we got together with you folks, it was 20 to 30 names long. Has that continued to increase?
I think Trudy would probably answer that better.
I think we're probably at maybe 12 to 15 right now. It's gone down. We've been trying to fill up the applications as much as we can. We have made some interim trips to Iowa to pick up some more dogs for some people. Maybe now might be the time to plug our next coming show.
Sure.
It's March 21st at Concord Mall here in Elkhart, and it's from 12 to 4. So anyone who would be interested in adopting one of these dogs should come out to the mall and see us. We will have all the dogs that are here out there for people to see, plus a lot more. People that have adopted dogs are going to bring their dogs out for people to see and to answer questions. And at that point, you can fill out an application. I will have a photograph album there of the dogs that are available for adoption in Iowa, and people will be able to choose from that photograph album to see if we can't match them up with the prospective families.
Wow, sounds great. Now, you were mentioning a little bit about the food that these dogs have had prior to coming to the program. Angela, what do you feed your dog? How much do these animals need?
I'm going through probably about 20 pounds of dog food a week.
Wow. And just your typical dry dog food that you buy at the store?
Yep.
Okay, so there aren't some real specific dietary specifications these dogs need then?
Well, I think the food that they need it can have no dye, isn't that correct? And I'm so used to knowing what to feed my dog that, what are some of the other?
The only thing I can think of is that people just can't switch them onto something right away.
Right.
I think that's important to know. You can't just take one of the dogs home and put it on the dog food that the rest of the dogs eat right at one time, because you throw their system. But I haven't heard anybody say that they had any real difficulties in terms of whatever food that they eat in, but there are some dogs that require
Greyhounds cannot tolerate anything with a red food coloring in it. It has to be nothing containing a red dye. Beef-basted Chewies are completely out. It has to be white. Their digestive system is a little bit sensitive, more than what a normal dog is. So we have to keep them on a clean, basic diet and no additives. They like, they had a lot of vegetables given to them on the track. They like vegetables cut up in their food. They also like, you know, maybe little pieces of chicken or something like that cut up in their food. But it's nothing, I mean, if people want to do that, that's fine. It's not something that's, you know, mandatory. A good quality dog food is all these dogs really need to be healthy. And Ivy's just a little bit too healthy. She's had just a little bit too much chicken in her food.
She kind of came to life there for a little bit.
I think she heard somebody crying in the background.
She wants her friends
She
back.
wants her buddies back.
Okay, well, this might be a good time to go to our break, and we'll come back and we'll have the rest of the dogs in just a moment.
I'm Lieutenant Dave Schock for Crime Stoppers. The murder of a Bethany Christian High School student is this week's Crime of the Week. 16-year-old Carrie Nunemaker was last seen alive on the night of January 28, 1991. Carrie and a male friend left a soccer game at the Elkhart YMCA and drove to McDonald's. She dropped her friend off, and they made plans to meet later at another restaurant. Carrie drove off and never arrived at the second location. Her car, a 1982 maroon Chevy Celebrity, was found 2 days later in an alley in the 1500 block off Morton Avenue. Carrie Nunemaker's body was found on February 5th along a county road near Bonneville Mill Park. This perplexing murder weighs heavy on the minds of Carrie's family and classmates. The police feel that this case will be solved, but only with your help. If you know who killed Carrie Nunemaker and call Crime Stoppers this week, you could receive a reward of $1,000 upon arrest or indictment. Be a Crime Stopper. Call us toll-free at 1-800-342-STOP. South Bend callers call 288-STOP. You'll be assigned a code number and we won't ask your name. Crime Stoppers. It works.
Welcome back to Michiana Matters. I'm Diane Daniels, and during the break we had our ever so special guests. Our dogs come back on the set with us here, so we've got a full house, and we're going to try and wrap things up by having some of our guests tell us a little bit about why personally you wanted to get involved with this. Stacy, maybe we can start with you. How did your initial interest get piqued?
Well, initially, I found a greyhound that had gotten loose from its owner, which has happened only a few times. And once I traced down who it belonged to, Trudy had come and picked the dog up for the person, and I was asked, along with my sister-in-law, if we would be interested in fostering dogs. This was back when we still had our foster program going. And we said, sure. So about 2 weeks after that, she called and said, would you be interested? And I said, sure. So that's when Flower came along. And it was only about 2 days after I had her, we decided that we couldn't get rid of her. She was going to have to stay with us.
She was your long-term foster child, huh?
Yes,
okay.
And she's great.
Angela, how about you? Did you ever dream you'd have a greyhound in your menagerie of pets?
My husband always wanted a Great Dane, and I said, we will not have a dog that big in the house. It won't happen. There's no way. But we had seen Trudy's picture and caption in the Elkhart Truth, and called to find out some more information, and I think we went and met Ivy, and 2 days later we picked up Jason, and we had just planned on fostering him for a while to see how he got along with our Cocker Spaniel. And he got along fine, and we decided he was home, that we weren't going to give him up. And since we've adopted a second one.
Now, you mentioned how these dogs have some kind of unique qualities, how if they see a mirror, they think there's another dog. What about running? Do you need a fenced-in yard? Do these dogs just want to run and run and run? I notice you all have them on leashes today.
We do not require a fenced-in yard. Just because you do not have a fence does not mean you're not a good pet owner, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people that want to welcome these dogs into their home and are good pet owners. A fenced-in yard, though, is a plus. I think all of us who do not have a fenced-in yard are really seriously thinking about obtaining one, just because the dogs do like to run, and they're a beautiful creature to watch run. They're graceful, they're athletic, and it's just amazing to watch them. A lot of people that have them that do not have fenced-in yards have to make a commitment to walk the dog at least 4, 5, 6 times a day to get them out. Also, there are places in the area that have fenced enclosures like ball diamonds and parks and schoolyards that have the enclosed fences that people have been taking the dogs out there just to let run. They maybe call up some friends that they know that have adopted the dogs, and we'll call them up and say, would you like to come and take the dogs out for a run? And they'll go out and run these dogs, and it's beautiful to watch run. So, no, the fence is not important. It's helpful, but it's not the main thing. The main thing is finding the dogs a good home.
Very good. And Ellen, how did you get started with your interest in greyhounds?
Well, I think the first recall that I have is reading a Reader's Digest article that was talking about what has happened to some of the dogs, some of them that were found after the retirement, and it was a very sad type of retirement, and saved, and it did talk about some adoption programs in various states and what needed to be done. And I just really was, you know, appalled. But I had no really local contact, and then when I happened to see Ivy and realized that that was a greyhound too, and we had some greyhounds in the area, right away I just felt like I had to do something. And all it takes is about 30 seconds for one to look at you. And they absolutely win you over. And, you know, I've had people say to me at the shows or whatever, is this one up for adoption? And I just say, no, she doesn't go home with anybody but me.
You have to watch them pretty carefully when you take them out there.
Yeah.
Pretty popular.
Yeah.
Well, Trini, tell us a little bit about how unique this is. Is this the only program in Indiana that you're aware of? Are there other ones
No,
in the state?
there's other programs in Indiana, in the area. It's not unique, more or less. It's I think people are becoming more aware of the plight of the greyhounds, and that's why it's more popular right now. It's very popular, as a matter of fact. I'm getting calls daily on people wanting to know what you do to adopt a greyhound. I just think it's public awareness, and it's word of mouth also about how great the dogs have been as pets, and how well behaved they are, and how little work they are really. And I think that's the main thing. It's just people are becoming more aware.
And maybe before we do run out of time here today, let's show that phone number one more time for Greyhound Companions. 264-9708. That's Trudy Batch's number, who has kind of become the full-time unpaid coordinator of this very, very successful and very large project. And I know, Trudy, any money, any volunteers, any prospective owners are more than welcome to call that number. And maybe one more time we can hit the time and the day for your next big event.
Please, everyone, come out and see us. We're at Concord Mall on March 21st. That's Sunday, this coming Sunday, and we'll be there from 12 to 4. And even if you're not interested in adopting, if you just want to come out and see them and look at the dogs, yeah.
Great. All right, well, thanks so much, everyone, and the dogs for being with us. We're out of time. Thanks for being with us for Michiana Matters.
Thanks for watching Michiana Matters. If you have comments or questions, we'd like to hear them. So send them to this address. And be sure to tune in next week for another edition of Michiana Matters.